Welcome to the Profitable Farmer podcast, where we share stories and tips to help you run a better farming business and create your very own freedom farm. If you're looking to work smarter and not harder in your farm business, welcome. You're in the right place.
G'day team, I hope this finds you well and enjoying a positive start to your season as we roll into the winter months. I have been looking forward to this conversation and interview for so long. I was going to keep this one for our 150th episode, but just couldn't wait. One of the things I genuinely love about the Profitable Farmer podcast is sharing great stories of people in our industry and across Australia doing truly incredible things. For me, this conversation is with a couple, Sam and Jenny Bailey, who are just incredibly resilient, incredibly generous, and just such iconic modern day heroes of our industry. So many of you will have heard of Sam's story, and many of you will have seen Sam and Jenny speak about their adversity and how they've overcome Sam's challenge as a quadriplegic farmer to navigate a very successful farming career and beyond their farm, between them and together, to make a massive contribution to businesses across corporate Australia, agribusiness, in community and into our schools, inspiring our kids and teaching our kids to be safe, to be thoughtful, and to live life well. I'm going to be open here that I haven't read Sam and Jenny's book. I haven't seen them speak on stage at a conference. But the number of people that have told me about their story and told me about just how incredible what they do in our industry is overwhelming. For Sam and Jenny, it is a real privilege for me to have you join us today. Thank you both so much for your time.
Oh, look, just we're thrilled to be with the FLA Express, Hutch.
Yeah, great to be here.
And can't wait to have you join us at Top Producers on the sunny coast in June. It's great to see you in person. But Jen, how are you?
I'm great. Settling into our new abode here at just south of Tamworth, and just getting our head around our new place and thinking up lots of projects and where we're going to plant all our new trees and where we're going to put our extra trobs. And it's exciting to have a new project.
Acknowledging that after 56 years farming at Cropper Creek, Sam, you find yourself relocating. We might even come back to that at the end, and you might have some advice for us sort of in that stage of their journey. Sam, can I kick off with you? What's your connection to agriculture, and would you mind sharing what it was like growing up?
Yeah, look, our story is probably very similar to a lot of your listeners. I was born and raised on a family farm where it was the bush was in my blood, the dirt was under my fingernails. Mum reckons I was born with a hoe in my hand. So you just had that connection straight away to agriculture. And I'm often asked, what is it? You travel around speaking and people want to know, what do you do out there? You miles from anywhere and you got no facilities or services, or I don't know what it is. It's a wonderful lifestyle you have growing up as a kid that I think certainly toughens you up and gives you a rock solid platform to launch your life from, because, right from day one, you learn a thing called grit, Hutch, because you see your parents. We all play our game with Mother Nature and we're terribly, terribly kind. And I saw that growing up with Mum and Dad battling droughts, fires, floods. And one of the things that was very evident is they never gave up. They'd clean up the mess and, okay, tough old you this one, but next year will be better. And it was. So you learn, you sort of grow up with that mentality. Our farm was chock-a-block full of animals. Obviously, when you've got live ones, you've got dead ones. So you learn all that as well. So as a kid, you learn to grieve, you learn to accept, you learn to toughen up, but you learn to get on with it. And little did I know that would help me enormously years down the track. So growing up on the farm, and I had my life all planned, Hutch. I get through my schooling, a year or two out in the big wide world, and then it was back home to take the reins from dad, marry, family. That in a nutshell was how I thought it all pan out. So 6 years at Little Crop Creek Primary School, where I learnt my ABC and 1, 2, 3. Then I was sent away to boarding school. I went to Tas in Armidale, where I guess the grand finale there for me was doing my HSC in Year 12 way back in 1985, where I graduated in rugby, cricket and athletics. By distinction in being able to find my way over to girls' boarding school blindfolded. So as you can probably imagine, there was not a lot of great celebration when my HSC mark arrived home, but that wasn't where I mean. I knew what I wanted, and I launched my life.
Thanks, Sam. Jenny, how do you reflect on your childhood? Where did you grow up, and what's your connection to agriculture?
Well, I grew up at Scone on a sheep and cattle place. So, I grew up in the saddle, helping mum and dad. All our school holidays were spent helping mum and dad on the farm and after school. And our holidays, we never went on holidays as such. Our holidays were spent having a week at my grandparents' place, mum's parents' place, which was half an hour away. And I'd be with my grandfather helping muster sheep in the, in the ranges there at Scone. So I had a very rural childhood, but in Year 10, I actually did work experience at a local newspaper and fell in love with journalism. So I sort of headed off in that direction, got a cadetship on a local country newspaper at Muswellbrook when I was just a year out of school, and sort of moved all over the place, went from there to the Blue Mountains and then to Maitland, and had a year in England where I worked on a paper for 6 months in London, and then came back and ended up editor at Nambucca on the mid-north coast, and eventually back as the editor in Muswellbrook where I'd started as a cadet. But when I was at Nambucca, I actually had a chance to experience radio and with the community radio station there, and just fell in love with journalism. So with radio journalism, with broadcasting, and then started to pester the ABC and eventually ended up working for the rural department with the ABC as a rural reporter in Tamworth. And I suppose that was the first time that I'd really put my love of journalism together with my love of the land, because I've always, really loved the land. And like I used to make mum and dad do all their, stock work on the weekends so I could go home and help them. And of course, had a passion for horses. So that always involved, mustering on horseback and having a work dog, and I had a Kelpie. And so I guess that love was there. And of course, as I said, the ABC allowed me to finally, work in rural broadcasting, which, I had 7 years with the ABC and just really loved it.
How lucky are we for our upbringing in this?
Yeah, very much.
Very much.
Like sometimes we can take it for granted, but yeah, we're just so fortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, finishing school, I think you did a bit of jackarooing. What did you get up to, and what was your outlook for you and your life at that point in time as a young, enthusiastic 18-year-old?
Yeah, well, I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and looking for a fair bit of fun. Look, I would have been happy to come home straight away, but obviously that was going to be an option for my parents. So they found me Mum had a cousin of hers, the first cousin, a little place called Stonehenge, which is just southwest of Longreach. So a phone call was made and the job was secured. And so I set sail for Stonehenge, my old Holden ute, got up there and just had a wonderful year, Hutch. Worked hard, played hard, made some lifelong friendships, and just fell hopelessly in love with the outback. And so the following year, I moved myself even further north to a big cattle station, a place called Aberdeen Downs, on the Barclay Tablelands, which was managed by a fellow called Jeff Wagstaff at the time. And so I remember I came home for Christmas at the end of 1986 and climbed back into the old Holden ute early the following year and set sail from the Northern Territory for what I thought was just going to be another wonderful adventure.
Sam and Jenny, you've both seen more adversity than most people see in their lifetime. What happened, Sam, in your 19th year?
4 months into the job up there, Hutch, and I remember we arrived it was a Sunday. We'd had lunch. There wasn't a lot going on, so yours truly thought he'd liven the pace up a little bit by seeing if I could talk a couple of mates into joining me for a trip back into Camberwell, which was about 60 k's back towards the Queensland border. I remember we assembled mid-afternoon, climbed into a car full of fun and excitement in the afternoon that was about to unfold, shut the doors, drove out the station entrance road, turned right onto the Barclay Highway. Jimmy Barnes was screaming, we were all screaming, and we were on our way for a ton of fun. And off we went. But we didn't ever make it to Camberwell that afternoon, Hutch. And I found out that your life can change in a heartbeat. We got, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes down the road. We were flying. Had a blowout in the front passenger side tire of the car. The car rolled several times. I was the passenger in the back seat, didn't have a seatbelt on, was thrown out the back window and came to lying on the side of the road. I knew straight away this time there was something pretty seriously wrong here because I was completely paralysed and I had no sensation at all in my lower body. So much so that I remember my first words to a couple who had obviously pulled up and had walked over and were kneeling down beside me. I said to them, geez, I hope I don't spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. So I guess you could say that I was preparing myself pretty early on for what was about to become reality. I was flown from the crash site by the Royal Flying Doctor to Mount Isa, where I spent the night at Mount Isa Hospital, spent most of the night in the X-ray theatre. Obviously, the docs had to photograph me from top to bottom to try and come to some diagnosis. And I remember the eventual diagnosis was pretty simple, 3 or 4 little cuts on my left arm, which I've still got, a dislocated right hip and a broken neck. I'd severed my spinal cord completely at the base of my neck, now leaving me a quadriplegic, which basically means I've got limited use of my arms and hands. I'm paralysed from chest down. I've got no sensation at all from my chest down, no bowel or bladder control anymore, no temperature control, and now only about 45% of my lung capacity left because I've got a fair portion of muscles all paralysed around my lungs. So I was placed in traction the first thing the following morning, loaded back on the Royal Flying Doctor, where I was then flown to Brisbane, where I arrived at the spinal unit at the PA hospital in Brisbane. Jeremy, it was just a shattering blow to go from being, yesterday I could walk, run, hop, skip and jump. I had the world at my feet, and at 19 you are bigger, stronger, faster than Superman. I think to be ejected out of that world and to be literally pushed into a spinal unit on a body, on a bed, trying to get your head around that you spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair, was pretty hard to cop at that age.
Sam, how do you get your head around that? Like, practically, you found out, and those days must have been intensely difficult. How did you manage over time to come to terms with that?
Well, I guess, as I've learned, we will all be confronted with, I don't know, call it what, accident, tragedy, unfortunately, life will deal us a bad card at some stage. And I guess you've just got to, stand back up, pick up the pieces and soldier on, because I know life doesn't stop to pick you up, prop you up, pat you on the back. The sun will go down this afternoon, it's back up again tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. And I guess as hard and as bloody tough as it is, life rolls along. So in order for me to roll on, I did, as you say, I had to come to some acceptance. And it was a matter of saying, well, bad luck, mate, wrong place at the wrong time. There's no rewinding the clock now. Be grateful that you're still here. And after all, a lot of people don't get that choice. Okay, you're pretty severely maimed, but the doctors had told me that there was a chance of leading a reasonably independent life. So when I weighed it all up and I broke it all down, it was swim or sink, touch, and I couldn't see any life at the bottom of the ocean, so I chose to swim.
Yeah, and you've done that in absolute spades, which we might explore, mate. Just in terms of your recovery, how long were you in hospital for, and what was the duration between then and when you were able to get back to the farm?
I think of 5 months where you start all over again, Jeremy. I remember once I was in traction for about 8 weeks, 2 months, and then the traction was pulled out of my head. And I remember one of the first things that I learned to do on the spinal unit was to sit up in bed. Obviously when you're paralysed from here down is become 75 kilos of dead, uncooperative weight. It took me days and days to then sit this torso up, and then you've got to try and maintain your balance while you then, transfer all this dead weight into a bath chair. For 16, 17 years, I've walked to the bathroom now. There was, pushing myself in this chair with wheels on, the showering, the toileting. Then you got to learn to dress yourself all over again. I can't tell you what it's like to pull a pair of jeans onto a body you got no control over or no sensation. just something as simple as trying to get a boot onto a foot was so bloody difficult. But then once you're dressed and in your chair, then when your hands don't work properly, it's all it's holding a comb or a knife or a fork or trying to get toothpaste onto your toothbrush. So 5 months there, and then my dream came true. All right, the spinal unit doors open, and I arrived home to the farm at Cropper Creek. But I can tell you, it was never ever in the plan to arrive home in a wheelchair. And arriving home was just an absolute bloody nightmare. I'd got through the spinal unit in record time because of that. It caught mum and dad by surprise. They were only partway through the widening doors, building ramps, another accessible bathroom, putting in air conditioning. I remember they picked me up. I think it was a Friday lunchtime. It was a 6-hour trip home. So we got home in the dark. I had to instruct Dad because mum and dad had only seen me 2 or 3 times in that 5 months. So I really had no idea of, because they were home trying to run a property. I had a younger brother and sister. That was a 5-hour trip or 10-hour round trip to see me in Brisbane. So they were completely unaware of, the day-to-day life of a quadriplegic. So I did instruct Dad how to put my chair together. He pushed me across the lawn. We got to the front steps of the house. The 2 steps, I jumped up, jumped down, flown up, flown down for years and years. Now I was having to instruct mum and dad how to pull me up backwards in a wheelchair. If that wasn't bloody demoralising enough, I'll never forget wheeling up the hallway into my old bedroom for the first time. And there was this life that I'd had, my saddle hanging up, surfboard in the water ski in one corner, cricket bat over in the other corner. I'll never forget wheeling over to a rack where my footy boots were and for the first time grabbing those and putting them on my lap, and just a horrible realisation that I'd never play another game of rugby. My dad was a wallaby and I would have loved to have had a crack and following his footsteps, but obviously that whole dream now was smashed. I couldn't do anything. I had no way of getting around the farm. I had no car, so basically I was housebound. But I think back then that the biggest thing was learning to live my life from 4 wheels. No longer was Sam that 6 foot tall, bulletproof young bloke. It was fiercely independent. No longer was Sam a big brother, guardian angel to a younger brother and sister. No longer was Sam a gladiator. Instead now I get used to people stopping and staring and looking at me and not knowing what to say. And Sam had to get used to asking for help. So, I don't know, Hutch, in the course of, a week or 10 days and getting home from the spinal unit, there I was in the absolute prime of my life with the horrible realisation now that my life now would never be the way it was. My body from here down now would never, ever do what I once did, but was still going to come along for the ride with me and be absolutely no help to me. I realised that I had a massive challenge ahead of me if I was going to try and make some sort of life for myself on the land. So I guess you could say I'd hit rock bottom. But then right at that moment, that grit that I'd learned as a kid kicked in. No bloody way in the world I was going to let a spinal cord injury get in the road of what I'd always wanted and what I've always dreamt of. So with a, Sydney Harbour full of determination and another one beside it full of never give up or give in attitude, I rolled my sleeves up and set about to rebuild a badly broken life.
Incredible, Sam, just to even in some small way try and contemplate what you went through and how you managed to stand back up and be as determined as you were. Just out of interest, what's important in getting through tough times like that? When you reflect back, what are the couple of things that really helped support you through that period?
Well, obviously, mum and dad laid an enormous foundation for me, the support of family. And I think the other thing, all the way through, I felt as though I had a responsibility to at least have a crack, because we've got this raw fine doctor in this country that break their back to help people all over the country. I arrived at the spinal unit where people dedicate their whole lives to helping people in wheelchairs. All the support of physios, doctors, OTs, all the therapists, all my mates who were cheering me on. I think I just had a real want of at least having a crack for them. And I think once you make your mind up to do that and you achieve your first thing like I did at home, you get the wheel turning and then it just keeps turning. And then It's just one hurdle after another. So I think there was those two things that, support from family and a responsibility to have a crack and realise you live in a very lucky country and, there is plenty of help and support. We can all do anything, really, if you want to. And we do live in this wonderful country that does give us all those opportunities to succeed.
Thanks, Sam. So how did you meet this amazing lady at your right shoulder?
Right. Well, this is a bit of a story. I might get hit over the head here in a minute. But so Hutch, I got my life back on track, learned to ride a full motorbike, converted all the farm machinery, learned to fly, had a couple of months overseas, had a crack at snow skiing. So as I said, I jumped all these hurdles and there was just one left in front of me to jump. And that was finding a girl to share this life that I'd rebuilt. Over the years, I'd had one or two relationships that never went anywhere. The girls had fallen in love with Sam, but the following weekend, when they found out a bit more about his mate, quadriplegia, and his restrictions, they ran, and I was accepting of that. Obviously, it made me realise not every girl in the world is going to throw themselves in front of a wheelchair. So it made me realise I was going to find this girl, she was going to have to be a pretty special one. I was now in her 30s, and I always knew I had lots of love and lots of affection that I could give a girl, and hopefully that would far outweigh some of the physical limitations that I had. But I just had to find that girl. Hutch, one of the great things about life is you never know what's around the corner. One wintry afternoon, the phone rang, and this bubbly voice introduced herself as Jenny Black. You don't know me for a bar of soap. I'm a rural reporter down here with ABC Radio in Tamworth. I've been given a name by a number of people that have told me you've made a pretty remarkable life for yourself up there at Cropper Creek. Cropper Creek happens to be my region. So I was just wondering whether I could come and do a story about you. Righto, so we tee up a day the following week, Hutch, the Thursday or the Friday, and I remember we just chatted and conversation freely flowed. As she said, she'd grown up in a sheep and cattle place at Scone. So yak. And I remember putting the phone down and thinking, gee, she sounds all right. I went out to Mum, who was in the kitchen, and I said, Mum, have you ever heard of a girl called Jenny Black who's with ABC Radio in Tamworth? And Mum said straight away, oh, yeah, no, your father and I have been listening to her for quite some time. She has a rural report on just before the 7 o'clock news each weekday morning. Well, Mum said to me, why is that? And I said, that was her on the phone a minute ago, and she'd come up here next week to do a story about me. Mum said, oh, no, it's a great program, and she's often interviewing someone that we know. Oh, I thought to myself. So, Hutch, the following morning, I gave the local FM music station I've been listening to the flick. And I turned my radio into ABC Radio in Tamworth, and I started listening to this girl called Jenny. And I started, like all the guys would have done at some stage, painting a picture in my own mind what I thought she looked like. For some reasons, I mentioned she was quite tall, and she had this dark olive complexion. And as every day went on, she got taller and taller and darker. I think to the day she was to arrive, and I remember being pretty excited about it. I thought, I'll jump on my bike and I'll go down and wait for her at the front gate. So I jumped on my bike, down I went, armed with this picture of this goddess in the back of my head. Got down there, not long after I got down there, I could see the swirl of dust in the distance, and up drove the white station wagon car. And as I got closer, I was eagerly peering through the windscreen to see there was an Albany reddish colour. So straight away, the dark olive complexion disappeared. She drove up and she pulled up right beside me as I was sitting on my bike, and she unwound the window. And Hutch, in a split second, I knew she wasn't going to be all that tall because the distance between the seat and the steering wheel was about that much. Sure enough, I followed her up to our house, and out hopped a redhead, freckly, sawn-off little runt. But there was a spark.
You're brave, Sam.
Yeah.
You know.
Don't worry, I'll get him back.
So she stayed the night. She did the interview, went back, put it to air. We got a great response from the story. We just kickstarted a wonderful friendship that lasted a couple of years.
Mm.
You know, we used to ring each other from time to time. Jen would come and stay with Mum and Dad and that if she was telling a story up our way. We became great mates.
We did, yeah.
However, there are a number of times during that couple of years that I did try and put a worm on the hook, Hutch, and throw it out in front of her. But she obviously didn't like worms. One time I'll tell you about, I was down in Tamworth staying with a mate of mine, And I got up one morning. I thought I'm going to go and ask her out. I knew she lived on the other side of town. So I rang her up. She was there. So I hopped in my ute, drove over, pulled up in the driveway. Out she came. So we kick-started a conversation. And anyway, after a little while, I thought to myself, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I took a deep breath and I said, Jenny, are you doing anything for lunch today? Could I come over and pick you up? And could we go down the street and find somewhere to have a steak? The country music festival was on at the time. And I said, there'd be any amount of entertainment on down there. Would you like to do that? She said, oh, Sam, look, you won't believe it. I've got a house full of mates staying with me at the moment. We've actually been invited to another function this afternoon. So look, unfortunately, I can't make it. Fortunately, yours truly had plan B. So I took another deep breath. I said, Jen, what about tonight? Are you doing anything tonight? I happen to know that John Williamson's playing out here at the Long Yard Tavern, and could I come over and pick you up, and could we go over there and watch him strut his stuff and have a meal? And she said, oh, Sam, look, you won't believe it. I've got the National Radio Finals on at the showground here tonight. I've got to take my recorder out to record some stories from a program first thing in the morning. So look, unfortunately, I can't make it. So there I sat, hutch, slapped over the head twice. And I thought to myself, well, if the girl vaguely likes you or there's an inkling there, that the natural reaction I would have thought is, what are you doing tomorrow, Sam? Or the next day, what are you doing next weekend? She didn't say anything. But right at that moment, her dog, Wiki, who was a black and tan Kelpie, was lying under the shade of a tree right in front of me ute. And Hutch, right at that moment, she hopped up, she walked around the side of my ute, and she hopped up and she put her two paws on arms and resting on the door of the ute. And she started licking my arm like there was no tomorrow. I remember Jenny and I were partway through a conversation and Jenny abruptly pulling up, looking down at the dog, saying, that is amazing. That is incredible. I have never, ever seen that before. I looked up and I said, why is that? And she said, my dog never, ever takes to anyone that quickly. I looked back up at her and I thought to myself, I wish you'd take some bloody lessons from your dog.
And that's a true story. That really is what happened. And my dog didn't take to people quickly normally. So she obviously knew something I didn't.
Jen, I think you deserve a right of reply here. What's your version of that story?
Well, little thing that Sam didn't tell you that I should tell you is just how life sends you in directions and sliding door moments, I guess. So Sam was initially contacted by a guy called Shane Marnie, who used to do the Country Hour in New South Wales, and asked Sam if he would do an interview. And so Shane was based in Sydney. And Sam had done a number of interviews before in Brisbane with commercial radio, etc., and had just done them over the phone. But for some reason, he said to Shane, look, Shane, I'd much prefer it if someone actually came here and saw what I do, because they just get more idea of, how everything happens. And of course, most radio stations wouldn't have a regional reporter like the ABC Rural Department did to say, oh, yeah, well, that's fine, I could organise that. But Shane did. So he just said, oh, that's fine. So he handed Sam's details on to me. And I just often think how, I wouldn't have met Sam if Shane hadn't contacted him and Sam hadn't said no that day, when he'd said yes to all the other interviews over the phone. And so it's just amazing. We were so meant to meet. We were so meant to get together. And I do really remember doing the interview with Sam. I remember when he met me on the bike, I thought, oh, he's rather gorgeous. But, you're the professional. You don't, think any further than that. But I do remember that his interview was amazing. He had this lovely way of expressing himself, and he just talks in very visual language. And the interview had a lot of response to that interview. And we did we just fell into this friendship that was, we just talked for ages, wouldn't we, on the phone? And the funny thing was that at the time I was in my early 30s, also thinking I was never going to find that special person. And a couple of different, apart from my dog, other people said to me, and a couple of different people said to me, oh, what about Sam Bailey? You talk about Sam differently to other people. But I think maybe until I knew Sam, I had never known anyone in a wheelchair that wasn't old and sick. And so I think we needed to be friends for a while first. And of course, you don't have to know Sam for very long before the wheelchair disappears. And, I don't see Sam as a disabled person. I just see Sam as Sam. And, he's got a few things he can't do physically, but we've all got things we can't do physically. I can't reach a top shelf of the supermarket. So, to me, it's not different, really. It's just, we've all got, limitations, and it might not even be physical. It might be, mental. It could be that you haven't got the money to do something or whatever. You've got, life restrictions of whatever kind. We've all got challenges in life we've got to overcome. And I don't see Sam's challenges as being any different to what any other person might have.
So, Hutch, you can see most girls can talk under wet cement with a mouthful of marbles. But the morning that I rang in and proposed to her live on her radio program, I just stumped for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, you stumped.
Oh, what an amazing morning that was.
Yeah, incredible. It was back in the days of fax machines. The fax machine ran out of paper.
Phone didn't stop.
Yeah, we were on the phone.
You better tell us about the proposal, Sam.
Well, obviously, Hutch, I had a wonderful opportunity to do something on air with Jen. And way back then, they had what they call a brain teaser. It was a general knowledge question they asked the audience just before the 7 o'clock news. They'd have the 7 o'clock news, and then after the 7 o'clock news, they'd open the phones up for the public to ring in and answer the brain teaser. And I thought, there you go. That's what I'll structure my proposal around. I'll ring in and pretend I'm going to answer the brain teaser. So, look, it took me another hour. It was all set up with the staff, and it took a lot of doing.
Yeah, because I did the rural program, which is part of breakfast, but I only did breakfast when the breakfast presenter was away sick. So he had to set all that up, obviously. So the presenter had to pretend to be sick. So I would go in and do breakfast so that I was there to, do the brain teaser question. And
I've been telling Jen I was going to be in Brisbane all week, just to throw her completely. But look, to cut a long story short, I actually rode down to Tamworth, stayed with a mate that night, went down to the studio the next morning. She would have had there was 2 flights of stairs to get back up into the studio. So there were about 3 or 4 blokes that pulled me up the stairs, and anyway, I wheeled into Jen's office, and she was on air, literally just there. So I rang in. I said, "Hi, Jenny Blackett, Sam Bailey speaking from Crop Creek."
Oh, I was like, "Hello, Sam." And of course, I'm thinking, you're in Brisbane. Why? How are you answering the brain teaser? And then I thought, oh, maybe he's left Brisbane early. He's driving down the highway. Meanwhile, you're going.
I'm going, so, hello, Jen. Look, I've got absolutely no idea the answer to your brain teaser this morning. But on New England Northwest Radio, Jen, I've got one for you. Will you marry me and spend the rest of your life by my side?
And then I was so shocked that I couldn't say anything except giggle. So it was just like, and I'm just going, I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
So what are you doing now? I said, look, Jen, why are you trying to make up your mind? I led you to believe I was going to be in Brisbane yesterday until all week, but I'm actually sitting here at your office, and I've got a big bunch of red roses for you, an ear tag with Sam on it, and a bottle of that bubbly stuff. Would you like to come and join me? But first of all, I need to know the answer to my brain teaser.
And of course I said yes.
You little ripper. So out she came, and it was
amazing. And of course, the whole staff for the ABC were all there. So I walk out of the studio and I'm greeted by, the breakfast presenter who's pretended to be sick, and everyone's there. And I'm like, unbelievable, you guys were all in on this. And so, of course, they were, because they'd helped Sam achieve little proposal.
Jen had a huge following back then because you'd been on the air for...
Yeah, I had 7 years. That's
7 years. So, a lot of people knew Jen.
And on the country.
And so it was just middle of winter. So it was just a really good bit of good news wafting through the air of bedrooms right across the area, when people were trying to rack up enough courage to get out underneath the dune and replace a chilly old day. All of a sudden, there was a bit of good news wafting around the hut. So, it was a pretty special time. So we were married in the Cas School Chapel where I went to school. And I guess then the dream really did come true. Arrived home to the farm at Cropper Creek as a farmer with my little mate here tucked under my arm, and those first 6 weeks were just bliss, weren't they?
Yeah, no, it was good.
What year was that, Sam?
That was 1999.
Married.
Yeah.
So you've had best part of 25 years together on that farm and running it incredibly successfully. Jen, can you give us a picture of how together you achieved that?
Well, it was very much a teamwork, and most of the time it was just us. Initially, Sam's parents were there, and so we didn't actually take over. They retired about 17 years ago. And when they retired, they sold part of the property that the part where Sam had actually grown up. And then we were just left there with part of what they had, and then we'd bought a block next door. And so, I mean, a lot of the time it was just the two of us day to day. I mean, Sam and I would muster together, but obviously then someone would come and help me in the cattle yards with marking and, drafting and that sort of thing. And then fencing, you'd get a contractor in to do those sorts of things. So we got help for things, but just day to day. I mean, I was fairly practical, having grown up on a farm and, then had horses all my life. So I guess, I didn't mind fencing and fixing water and doing all those sort of jobs. And Sam taught me how to drive machinery and things a bit more, but we did end up leasing our farming country over time and gradually more and more of it. But we were running cattle, about 150 to 180 Angus breeders up until the drought. And we did eventually sell them in the drought after we fed them for 2 years.
Amazing to see the footage of, the infrastructure that you built, Sam, to get into the Bobcat and into the bike and into the tractor, and how much pioneering and innovation did it take to achieve?
Oh, look, it was great. It was great fun, Hutch, back then, because, as you know, give a cocky a bit of steel and a welder and make something out of it. And, of course, Hutch, back then there was no internet. There was no Google or YouTube or anything like that. It was very much us nutting it out. And I had a really good bush engineer in a little town called Warrialda, which wasn't far from where we are. And he came out all the time. We just, over the period of time, we got the hoist, and that one hoist did 2 or 3 tractors and a header and a bulldozer. And, we modified a full motorbike. And, we had a lot of fun doing it all. And, to get back on that first tractor and feel as though you were part of the team as well. So I could partake in all the cropping activities. And so we did. We had a lot of fun and a lot of enjoyment, and we did. We jumped lots of hurdles and got my life back to virtually where it was before, but it did take 5 or 6 years, I guess. They were lost years in a sense, because when, I had all my mates gallivanting around Australia, around the world, and while they were doing that, I was back home trying to, learn how to drive a modified car and get into a tractor and just those simplistic things, but that was good. We worked it out, and Mum and Dad were fantastic. They were just pillars, really, Mum and Dad. And so together we worked it out. It was good.
You mentioned a couple of achievements along the way. I think you mentioned skiing, and you've learned to fly an ultrasound. And I think you're in the process, the first ever quadriplegic to fly a helicopter. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Crazy idea, isn't it?
I love it. How's it going?
Well, I suppose it's because people wonder why in the hell you want to do it, because, we've been speaking now for about 20 years right around the country, and a couple of years after we started, we did venture into schools as well. I just saw my story can have a huge impact on kids, and I suppose we've just been trying to inject that grit and that have a go and then have another go and have another go, and, the realisation that you live in a lucky country, but I think ultimately you can do anything if you want to. I saw the impact the story was having on them, and I just thought, well, how do you take it to another level? I just thought, well, every school has an oval. You can't fly an airplane into an oval, but what a fantastic helicopter pad. So why not learn to fly a helicopter and then fly it into a school, land, hop out, call the kids all over, tell them your story, and then hop back in and fly off. And and the image that would stay with me, and hopefully, as you fly away, gee, if Sam can do what he's doing, well, I can do anything. That was where it was all born, Hutch. But it has been it's been many, many years of ups and downs. And I think when you're trying to achieve a world first, you do have times where it's right in reach, and then you have other times where you think it's never going to happen. But it's just that perseverance, and so we're getting close. We're with a company now called HeliMods on the Sunshine Coast, and we've got the modification, and it's done 10 hours of its test flying, and so it's all slowly coming together, and won't be a great achievement when it does happen. And I'm sure there are a lot of blokes thinking, oh, you'll never do it, but they're I've written all of those blokes' names down a little notebook that I've got. So,
oh mate, I can't wait. I can't wait to hear.
Yeah,
It's when you do, and I can play to get you landing on a few school oval.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What support do you need out of interest, Sam, around that cause?
Well, the Commonwealth Bank gave us a sponsorship quite a few years ago. And so and we set up a charity to achieve it. We've had a couple of engineers come and go, and now this HeliMods is looking a lot more promising. And of course, one of the things that's changed too is that there's more autopilots and things that have become available in the time we've been working on it as well. So the modification has changed over time. But the latest engineers are amazing, actually, company on the Sunshine Coast, started by a guy who started from nothing and has built this amazing empire where he does all the modifications for Royal Flying Doctor and all the rescue health machines and helicopters, and is even saying to do overseas work that does all the Canadian rescue helicopters here in Australia. And so he's very excited to be part of the project. And so he's just, we've already met with him and he's super keen to be involved along with his staff. So I think while we have a basic modification, I think they're sort of thinking we can tweak it and make it a lot better. And it's been a long journey and there's been a lot of ups and downs. You know, we actually put a deposit on a machine back, before the global financial crisis, and you buy them in American dollars, and we lost that because the dollar went through our dollar plummeted. And so there's been a lot of ups and downs through the journey, but I think we've got the best team now that we've had through it, and we're looking very excited at the future. I initially was going to learn to fly as well, because Sam will always have to fly with a co-pilot. But as it's taken so long, and I did get through my theory first, I might add. I don't mind to rub that in, but I've got to get him back somehow for those comments about what I look like. It probably, we're probably thinking more now because it's taken so long that, he'll maybe just get a sort of instructor to be his co-pilot and just get the thing in the air and not waste money and time on me learning as well. So anyway, it's all, that's maybe where, we might have more time now that we've, made changes in our life to pursue those other things.
Yeah.
You're both 20 years on the speaking circuit, and so much more than that, inspiring and sharing your story and, contributing to teams across agriculture, teams across corporate, and so many students. What inspired you to actually do that and commit to that and share your story? And I'm also keen, Sam, what are you most proud of for that 20 years of time contributing into the lives of others?
Well, I guess the speaking, the Hutch start, our story was on a program, Australian Story, way back in 2000. And I remember we just got an incredible response.
Yeah, we did.
Back cards, letters, phone calls, people pull us up in the street. And I think, Hutch, for the first time, I personally was starting to realise that I had a story that could help, because probably 80% of the people who responded had suffered some life-changing hardship of their own. They'd seen our story and thought, well, if you guys can do it, we can too. So what Australian Story did was kickstart the public speaking. And Hutch, as you know, there's only one thing worse than dying, and that's public speaking. But we kicked off. It was just, we cut our teeth a little bit just in our own backyard, but literally for the last, as you were saying, it's probably more than 20, it's probably about 22 years now. We've been crisscrossing the country, and look, it's an extraordinary life. You get an email or a phone call, all of a sudden you're heading in a direction you've never been before. 1 minute you can be in a capital city talking to the top end of town. Next minute you're out in the middle of nowhere talking to a handful of people. We've made some great friends.
Yeah, we have.
Around the country. We give a bit, Hutch, we get a lot back. So, and it's just, for me, the great thing, the thrill I get out of it is just being able to help. Just telling your story and knowing that it will give people some hope. Give the ones that may be a bit down on their luck a bit of a kick in the backside. And if that's my call in life, well, that's what I'm doing. And so that's what I'm most proud of. And I look, I'm not pumping in my own backside, but I have an ability to be able to just to get someone, up and going again. And I think for me personally, that's what I'm really proud of. And it'll be nice to leave the earth knowing that you've made a bit of a difference. I think, and we all strive for that.
Humble as ever, Sam. Jenny, what about for you? How do you reflect on that journey and chapter in your life so far? And what are you most proud of about being just so committed in that area?
Well, I guess I get to spend my life with the most amazing person I know. So that's a real privilege. And there's not a day goes by when I'm not so thankful for that. Obviously, Sam's also given me the opportunity to help him write his book. And as a former journalist, obviously, I actually did a book when I was with the ABC on the 50th anniversary of the Rural Department. But since then, I guess I always hoped I'd get to write a book. And Sam allowed me to do that. And it's a book that's had a lot of impact on people. And a lot of people say it sounds like Sam and it's really easy to read. And we've had as young as 8-year-olds read it. And I guess I kind of like to think that's down to my skills as a journalist and as a writer. And so I guess that's probably one of the things I'm very proud of. Mm-hmm. But I'm also proud of the fact that I allow Sam to impact so many people's lives because, he couldn't do it without me, but then I couldn't get to do it without him. And so, we're very much a team. If anything happened to one or the other of us, it would completely change our lives because we are very much a team and we allow each other to live this life. So I guess, we're very lucky, aren't we?
Yeah, we're blessed.
That we found
Very
each other
blessed.
because we're a great team.
Yeah.
Where would you be without Jen? And I'll ask that question first and then follow up with another one. But where would you be without Jen and her support?
Oh, God. Even hate to think about that, Hutch. I don't know. How would you ever know? It's like saying, well, if you didn't have your car accident, Sam, where would you be now? Well, I can't answer that. I mean, but look, she's made my whole life. She has made my whole, and she's the one that allows me to, as she said, she allows me to farm. She allows me to speak. She's the one that, packs, pushes, shoves, and all of a sudden we end up wherever we're speaking at. I'm the luckiest bloke in the world because I get to share every day, all day with this little one here, and she's a very, very special girl, and she's made my whole life. And I often used to look back and wonder how my life might have ended up had I got to that pub that Sunday afternoon. Obviously, I'll never know. But I don't know, Hutch. Maybe I might have gone through life not realising that I did have an inner strength of some sort to not only pull myself through my own bit of bad luck, but now to go out and help others through theirs. And look, there's no doubt about it. I had a great life. up until the age of 19, but I got an absolute bloody rip in our Hutch. Wouldn't trade places with anyone.
You think at times, Sam, we can get so busy that perhaps we forget to acknowledge or that we might take our life partner for granted? Do you see people that might be taking their partner for granted along the way?
Well, they're taking them for granted, but sometimes... Yeah, we do so a little bit, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, definitely people. I mean, I think people get busy and caught up in what they're doing and don't always take time to just take that step back and think about how lucky they are if they've got someone who's allowing them to live the life they want to live, or family that's supporting them to live their dream, or friends that are supporting them. It mightn't even be a life partner. It might be, other people that allow them to do that. And I'm not sure that it's very easy in this life to go through life and not appreciate what you've got already and the people around you that make it possible.
Yeah, it was very much, we've got all this marketing thrown at us every day. And, you do, as Jen said, you sometimes forget about what you've got, and I think maybe that's your partner. Because and maybe you don't do it consciously, but subconsciously, we're all busy. We're all flat out. We're all trying to run our lives, run our businesses. But, it's a pretty special thing to be sharing your life with your best mate. And what they don't tell you when you do fall in love with your best mate is how it just gets better and better as the years roll by. And I think... And
that's so true. Like, you just don't realise, years of sharing your life and creating dreams together and achieving things together, it's just worth so much, and nobody really talks about that. So, that's you're really lucky if you get to do that, and that's why we just are so lucky, aren't we? But there's lots of other people that are the same. There's plenty of farming families out there that, a husband or a wife can't achieve what they're achieving without that other person. And, so I hope that people hear this, they go and say to that person how, appreciate how much they appreciate them, because that's one thing we like to sort of remind people of is just, make sure you tell that person regularly what they mean to you and how much difference they make to your life.
be a lot of rocking and rolling going on tonight in bedrooms all around the country. Yeah. But Hutch, we have met your wife, but I'm sure you would say you would back up what we've just said. You can't do. I went through a pretty tough time in leaving the farm, and I think I really only got through it because of my little mate here that backed me up and gave me a wonderful platform. And it was a tough time, but we got through it. And I support her when she's that's what you do as a team. You support each other.
And then, at some stage it'll be your turn to support me. And that's what happens, isn't it? I mean,
that's right.
It is.
So great.
Yeah.
You mentioned before, Sam, about throwing the worm out and hoping that she gets it. I met Jane when I was 12. I got Mum to rig the local tennis game at a cordial party so that Jane was my partner, and we tracked together from age 12 to sort of 16 and then went our separate ways and came back together. But
oh, wow.
You only had to propose once.
Yes.
I had 4 cracks at proposing to Jane before I convinced her to say yes.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, right. Wrong bait, Hutch, was it?
Wrong bait, exactly. Wrong bait. One was after 3 days of going out again. So, fair play to not moving as quickly as perhaps I wanted us to.
Yeah.
Hey, just a couple of questions, if I could. What would you say to a farming family going through their own version of adversity? Well, you mentioned that, your hope is to give them some hope, Sam, at times. We've had fire, flood. We've got people having their own medical and other challenges. Have you got anything that you would say to people who are, doing it tough?
Well, I suppose at the end of the day, Hutch, it's not, if you open your eyes to the bigger picture around the world, there's a lot of heartache and a lot of really, really bad heartache happening around the world. And sometimes you need to put that into perspective, and then it brings you back to your own situation. And sometimes you can think, well, hey, hang on. Okay, it's bad, but it's not that bad. And just finding those little triggers to, I think, just put you on another path. But I just think at the end of the day, it's, the sun goes down and comes back up tomorrow. And we are so all very lucky to live in this great country. And I think communication, Hutch, is paramount. I think, you need to talk. But it's just, I suppose I just, tell them my own story and just try and give them something, a bit of a lift. And I think I somehow do. I don't know how I do it, but I do give them a little lift. And
I guess that's one of the things that you can do when you're going through a tough time is draw on other people who've been through similar things that have got through it and use that as sort of hope, because I guess that's kind of what you're doing, isn't it? You're telling people, well, I'm, down the track with, say, a spinal cord injury, for example, and this is what's possible. And that gives people hope and it helps them get through that difficult time.
Yeah, because it's such people get caught in a trench. And you're underground and you're churning, but sometimes you need to pop your head up out of the trench. Yeah, and that's sometimes all you need, isn't it? Someone to,
talk to someone else who's maybe been through it.
Yeah. Sam, you mentioned before you had to learn how to ask for help and let asking for help be okay. How important is it, to be okay to ask for help?
Oh, yeah. And I think, Hutch, once you've done it once, it becomes it becomes easier and easier as you do. And then you find out that people love helping. People love going out of the way to give you a hand, and blokes are blokes, Hutch. We don't, we're tough, we're strong, but I think if you just got to ask that one time, and I had to at 19, it was the hardest bloody thing I ever did, because I've lost that gladiator status. I used to be able to do all this myself, and all of a sudden now I've got to, so I guess I was, in the early part of my life was asking for help, and then, I've had to do it once or twice through the years. And but I just know your mates love helping you. Your mates love helping you. Your family loves helping, and often that gives them a lift as well. So it's a win-win for both parties.
Yeah, it's a great comment, Sam. You're giving other people the opportunity to give as well, which is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, and they like doing that. It gives, they feel good too. So it's an all-round feel-good story.
What about your message to kids these days, Jen? When you speak at schools and you share your story, what is it that you offer to kids in regional communities and across Australia in school as a message?
Well, Sam does the speaking in the schools generally, not me so much, but his message is very much about don't give up. He talks about when his dad brought the four-wheel bike home. So they'd only just come out four-wheel bikes, and the guy who sold them in Moree said to Sam's dad, why don't you take one of these bikes home for Sam? And Sam's dad put it on the back of the ute thinking, I don't think he'll be able to get on and ride this. But he, felt like he couldn't say no to this friend that had made the offer. So he brought it home, and Sam immediately dismissed it, didn't you?
I said, don't worry about taking off the back of you, Dad.
Yeah.
Because I'd given these bikes some thought. I mean, how in the bloody hell do you get on it? And when your hands don't work properly, how do you operate it? But I remember Dad saying to me, look, I'll unload it. I've got to go back into town next week. I'll load it back up and I'll take it back in and just say, look, it was a bit beyond us. So I unloaded it. He put it over in the shed hutch, and I didn't give any, so I was 19, didn't give any thought to it till the following morning. But I got up and I wanted to get something out of the shed. So I wheeled over into the shed, wheeled up past this bike. And I remember turning around looking at it, and I thought to myself, I'm going to go getting on this thing. So I pulled up beside it, and there was when you get my bum up in it was daunting. I don't teach you stuff like that in a spinal unit. But anyway, I thought I'm going to have a crack. My first 2 or 3 attempts failed. I lost my balance, fell out of my chair, fell onto the concrete floor. But I managed to get myself back in my chair, and then I can't remember, 4th or 5th go, I actually got my bum up onto the seat, and I sort of quickly pushed myself up, grabbed hold of the handlebars, and I was quite amazed on how stable and safe that I felt. So I sat there for a moment. I thought, well, mate, you got this far, but I keep going. So I grabbed my other leg, I threw it over the bike, and I sort of adjusted myself, and it was a Suzuki motorbike, so I started up. The reverse mechanism was just a lever you pull between your legs. So I very slowly backed it out of the shed, pushed the lever forward. It had been modified at that stage, so they're automatic these days, Hutch, but this one was geared. So I reached down and pulled it up into, first or second gear and sat back up. I thought, oh, well, here goes. And I went, I went about 10 metres and I had a 10-metre smile on my face. I'd found my legs. So that's a story I share with kids in that, you've got to have a go, and you won't always succeed that first. You've got to keep having another go and another go, and you will, and so that's one key message I share with them. And I think today, and I see it through my nieces and nephews, that they are very inclined just to try something more. So they
give up very easily.
Give up very easily. So that's a message I share.
And obviously seatbelt, because
seatbelt, speed. Right through your life, you always have people telling you can't do things. You won't make the footy team or the debating team or the netball team, but it's up to you to go out there and prove them wrong. And there's no bloody greater feeling to go out and do something that someone told you couldn't do and come back and show them you've done it. And then I think just the incredible importance of family, friends, and community in your life, because at the end of the day, they are the 3 most valuable things to us all: your family, all your mates, and where you live. There's no way, as I said earlier, Hutch, I could have ever done of what I've done without the support of obviously my immediate family, all my mates who would cheer me on, and the wonderful little Cropper Creek community, not big in numbers by any chance, but they were all there to cheer me on early on and still are. So they're 4 key messages I share with kids, and we always get a great response to them.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, it really is incredible to watch the kids just all sitting there riveted to Sam's story. And I guess he wasn't sure how the kids would connect with the story early on, but I don't know what it is. He's got something about him, but it just, holds their attention, and then they all want to come up and meet him. And, of course, the primary school kids all want to ask 100 questions. And, of course, the high school kids don't ask any because it's not cool. But, it's really good.
Oh, Hutch, ask for questions in a primary school. Everybody hand in the room goes up. And they ask some crackers, some absolute crackers, don't they? So, look, Jen and I, unfortunately, weren't able to have our own kids. We went through the IVF cycle and that didn't work. And we didn't meet till later on in our life, and by the time that was happening, there was mention of a book and the speaking, so we decided to shut that door and go through the other one.
And, life's like that sometimes. When we could have kept trying to have kids, and I'm sure we would have succeeded, but we made the decision that, okay, well, maybe that's not for us, and we'll, obviously we wouldn't have got to do all the speaking and the book if we'd had children, because we would have had that commitment. And So I don't know, life's, you'll get times in your life when you make a decision and you'll go in one or two directions, and, it's been a great journey we've been on. It's not perfect. We don't have children. We miss out on that, but we've got to travel around Australia and talk to lots of other kids and meet lots of people and have an amazing life. So, nothing's perfect in life, and you've got to be thankful for the things you have and make the best of what you've got.
Listening to you over the last sort of 3 or 4 minutes, I think deep down we all want to have grit. And you started this whole conversation, Sam, mentioning grit and how as farming children, we kind of learn it in our backstory, but can't help but think that those kids sitting in that room and listening to your story get the secrets to what it is to have it. That summary of what you just shared over the last few minutes in particular, like, they are, for me, the ingredients that help us achieve that thing that you mentioned called grit.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Call that a word, but it's very powerful, very, very powerful.
So, mate, my last question is what is it? How do you define what grit is? And given your backstory and given the amazing story that you continue to share, what is it to have it?
Well, grit's the toughness, grit's the armour that you learn very early on in your life, and it sticks with you for the rest of your life. And
trying over and over, not trying more than once.
Yeah. It's sometimes hard to answer. It's just that, give it a crack. That's all it is, and we can all learn it. And I think you do have to learn grit. You can't go and buy it, or you won't find it under your pillow, or you won't find it in the shop. You do have to learn it. And I think farm kids learn it as they're growing up. And as I said earlier, it's growing up on a farm gives you that. You learn grit because you see life and death. You see, we all play our game with, as I said, Mother Nature. And I think it's good to have that heartache early in your life, because it makes you then realise that it's not going to be plain sailing, and there are going to be days where the wind doesn't blow and your sail's going to go flat. Get through that day, and the next day the wind will blow and you'll be roaring along again. And I think you need to have a bad day every now and then to appreciate the good ones. And we have days where we wonder why the bloody hell we got out of bed, don't we?
Yeah, and everyone does.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Don't ever think our life's perfect, and
but it's about believing that it'll get better, and
it does. It just will, doesn't it?
That's
just
right.
gets better,
exactly.
And
knowing that, the sun will go down today and tomorrow will be a better day. And being really, really focused on what you've got, being grateful, that's really important too.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to forget what you've got, be aiming for something and focused on that and forget what you've already got. We're lucky in Australia just to have a bed to lie in and a roof over our head and food on the table, because, there's a lot of even Australians now that are struggling with that. So we've got so much to be thankful for if we even have just those basic things.
Sometimes what can make your day, Hutch, is if you just help someone. And that can be as simple as picking up the phone and just ringing a mate, you haven't spoken to for a long while, and you're going, how things down where you are. And this opportunity right for a day to help people, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
And it makes you feel good. Just makes you feel good helping someone.
And I mean, that's what you love about talking to people who are going through, spinal cord injury or other challenges in life, isn't it? Because you're helping someone. That makes you feel good.
And I've been there, done that. I know what they're feeling. I know what they're going through, and in any trauma, I guess. And so you're able to, you're able to wrap your arms around them and say, look, it's not all bad, and it'll get better, and I promise you it will, and it does. I've had lots of people that, I spoke to early on in their injury or accident, who now say, look, I'll never forget your phone call, Sam, because it just gave us such a lift, and it really got us back on the tracks, and now we're rolling along well too.
And we get inspired by those people too in what they do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so good, isn't it?
Lead incredible life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice. It's nice knowing you had a little bit of that much to sort of do in their story early on. But I get that, as I said, Hutch, that's what I love, just giving someone a bit of a lift. And, whether it was sending a copy of my book or ringing up or, meeting them in town or something or other.
And I mean, you'd understand what we're talking about because,
That's what you guys are doing.
the work you guys do, I mean, you're helping farmers and it might make a huge difference. It might make a small difference, but it's making a difference. And, you're contributing to all those people's lives. And there's nothing more rewarding than that, is there?
No, there's not. And I think to your point, so often we can think as farmers that we're in the business of growing stuff and, marketing stuff or whatever it is, but ultimately being in the service of others, we've all the opportunity in every moment to do that point.
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
Hey, I just want to say to you both, just congratulations on what you've achieved in farming and in giving and inspiring tens of thousands or more of people across Australia and across our industry. I hope that in some way this conversation does that story a little bit of justice. But, for the impact that you've had on kids, on farming families and on so many people across Australia, thank you so much for all you've done and continue to do. And thank you for sharing your inspiring story, Sam and Jenny, with us today.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no. And please, if anyone out there is doing a bit tough, Hutch, pass me details on and I'd love to speak to them or if I can help in any way.
You're both bloody legends.
I don't know about that.
Don't know about Hutch, but anyway. But we've had a thrill. It's been a ton of fun, Hutch.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
Talk soon.
So there you have it, ladies and gents. Incredible to have that time with Sam and Jenny and to hear their story and to hear how they inspire so many across our industry. For those of you, and Sam just offered in closing to share his mobile number for anyone who would like to chat with him. But out of respect to Sam, I might suggest you go to his website. I'll share it in the show notes. And his book, Head Over Heels, is absolutely incredible. I encourage you to grab that and share it with anyone you know who you feel that can support. Sam and Jenny, thank you so much. Wonderful to have that time with you. And I hope that this conversation has done your incredible story just a little bit of justice. Thank you for the impact that you've made and continue to make in our industry. Take care, everyone. Thank you. And bye for now.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Profitable Farmer podcast by Farm Owners Academy. If you're new to this show, be sure to follow us. If you've been a long-time listener, let your friends know about us or come continue the conversation in the Profitable Farmer Facebook group. All the best as you grow your business and create your freedom farm. Until next time, keep being incredible.